Imagine baking a $200 birthday cake for your only child, only to be told that the greatest gift you could give her is your death. That's exactly what happened to me. But instead of breaking, I turned her cruel wish into my greatest comeback, one that left her begging for the mother she thought she never needed. Stay with me, because this is the story of how I disappeared and rose again stronger than ever. It was my daughter Sabrina's 45th birthday, and I arrived at her door early, cradling a cake from her favorite bakery. $200 for chocolate and strawberries. Extravagant for most people, but for my only child, price never entered the conversation. I knocked with the same hope I'd carried since she was little, that her face would brighten when she saw me. The door opened. No brightness, just a flat, irritated stare. "Oh, it's you," she said, not bothering to meet my eyes. "Happy birthday, my love," I whispered, lifting the box where candles already waited to be lit. "Your favorite, like when you were a kid." Sabrina sighed as if my presence were a chore. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, turning away to let me in without a thank you. We sat in her sunlit living room, the house I had funded when she and Marcus married. $50,000 I'd scraped together from a lifetime of double shifts as a nurse. Every corner of that home carried a piece of me. And yet, sitting there felt like trespassing. "You know, Mom," Sabrina began, voice cool and practiced, "I've been thinking about birthdays, about gifts, about what would actually make me happy." I smiled, ready to say yes to anything. "Name it. A trip? A necklace? Maybe that car you liked?" She looked straight into me, and what looked back wasn't love. It was disdain. "The best present," she said slowly, savoring each word, "would be for you to just die." Time cracked. The room went silent except for my heartbeat, loud and wrong. "What?" I breathed, heat stinging my eyes. "What did you say?" "You heard me," she replied, knives hidden inside her calm. "I'm tired of you. The calls. The drop-ins. The drama. My life would be easier if you disappeared." My hands shook. 72 years alive, 45 as her mother, and I'd never imagined I could hear this from my child. "Sabrina," I managed, choking on the name. "I'm your mother." "I gave you everything." "Exactly," she snapped, standing. "You smother. You crowd. I can't breathe with you hovering. I need freedom from your neediness." Wax began to melt and curl on the untouched candles. The birthday I'd imagined, hugs, laughter, a family dinner, lifted like smoke and vanished. "I only want to be close to you," I tried again. "You're all I have." "And that's the problem," she said, folding her arms. "I shouldn't be your whole life. Get one of your own. Leave me alone." I rose on shaking legs, the cake now a cruel joke in my hands. "I can't believe you're saying this after everything I've done." "Everything you've done has been for you," she laughed, sharp and mean. "To feel necessary. To control me. I'm not a child." I walked to the door, each step taking years from me. At the threshold, I turned, hoping to see the little girl I once knew flicker across her face. All I found was impatience. Hurry up and leave so her party could begin. "Happy birthday, Sabrina," I murmured, and I closed the door on the last seconds of my life as the mother who would sacrifice anything. I reached my small apartment on trembling legs and slid the cake into the trash. The candles drooped like the tears I couldn't stop. I sat on the old couch where I had once nursed her, read her stories, cried happy tears the first time she called me Mom. How had love walked me here? How did the child I carried become a woman who wished me gone? Memories, uninvited and merciless, lined up. At 3, when pneumonia rattled her small body, I sold my mother's jewelry and worked triple shifts to buy the $100 and $200 antibiotics insurance wouldn't cover. At 16, I logged weekend after weekend to buy the pink prom dress, $800, and she'd hugged me whispering, "You're the best, Mom." In college, she changed majors 3 times. I paid every semester anyway, $42,000, signing a second mortgage with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. At her wedding, I wrote checks until the pen ran dry, $35,000, for the ballroom, the flowers, the menu. My princess deserves everything, I'd told the planner. For the first home she and Marcus wanted, I didn't hesitate. Don't worry about the down payment. $150,000, my retirement, renamed their start. When the twins arrived, I became the free babysitter, the midnight answer, the person who made everyone's life easier except my own. When Marcus lost his job, I covered 8 months of mortgage, $16,000, stretching my pension with rice and beans. When the twins needed braces, another $4,000 I handed over with a smile. That's what grandparents do. I opened the closet, pulled out the boxes of receipts I kept, just to remember the good I'd been allowed to do. I added the numbers the way you count bruises. Raising Sabrina until she launched, about $200,000. College, $42,000. Wedding, $35,000. House, down payment, $150,000. Mortgage, kept $16,000. Braces, $4,000. Years of gifts, at least $10,000 over. $460,000. Nearly $500,000 poured into my daughter's life. For what? So her birthday wish could be my death. If I'd put that money in a modest account and let interest do its quiet work, I'd have more than $600,000 today. I could be traveling, living without counting coins. Instead, I had chosen love, believing sacrifice returns home wearing gratitude. Foolish, faithful me, I called her. I had to hear if she meant it. After 5 rings, what now, Mom? Did you mean what you said? My voice wobbled. Of course, she replied, gleefully unrepentant. You're obsessed with me. It's unhealthy. Respect my boundaries. Obsession? I whispered. You call a mother's love obsession? Yes, and I hope you finally get the message. I set the phone down like it might burn me. There was no misunderstanding. She believed every word. I stared at the ceiling until the hours dissolved. Every memory knocked. Her first steps, the science fair, the nights we whispered secrets. Had those moments ever been mutual? Or had I raised someone who learned only to take? At 3 a.m, sadness hardened into something colder. A clarity I hadn't known in years slid quietly into place. I had been used. I had been managed. And I had been thrown away. She wanted me to die? Fine. I would disappear, but not the way she imagined. When dawn rinsed the city, I was already dressed. Determination felt like a new spine. First stop, the bank. The joint emergency account I'd opened just in case held $20,000. Good morning, Mrs. The manager asked. Elena Vargas, I said with a pleasant smile that hid an iron decision. I'd like to close joint account 45872891 and transfer the full balance to my personal account. Are you sure? Mr. Patel peered over the screen. It's a considerable sum. I'm sure, I signed, hand steady at last. Watching those funds return to my control felt like oxygen. Next, the mortgage office. Last year, when Marcus lost work, I co-signed their loan to keep a roof over the twins. That signature meant liability, but also rights. Mrs. Vargas, said Ms. Green, sliding a thick file across the desk. As co-signer, you're responsible if the primary borrowers default. But you also have remedies if risk is evident. I see 8 months you paid last year. That's substantial evidence of instability. Exactly, I said, placing copies in my bag. Sabrina had mentioned Marcus lost his job again. She thought she was hinting for help. She was handing me leverage. I walked out with the sun warm on my face. A storm gathered. This time, one I invited. Third, my attorney. Arthur Levin, 70 and sharp as a tack, had been my late husband's friend and had watched me pour myself into Sabrina for decades. Elena, he greeted, concern in his eyes. This is unusual. What's happened? I told him everything. Each word, each cruel glance, the sentence that had slit the seam of my life. He listened without interrupting, then pressed his lips together. I want a complete overhaul of my estate, I said calmly. Life insurance, savings, apartment, investments, remove Sabrina from every beneficiary line. Leave charitable bequests instead. Create a trust for the twins that they can't access until 25. and start the paperwork to exercise my mortgage rights. Marcus is unemployed again." Arthur nodded, already drafting. "It's all doable." "Are you certain?" "I've never been more certain," I replied. My daughter asked for my disappearance. I'm going to oblige, but the absence she feels will be real. By the time I left Arthur's office, the sky had turned to ink. I walked my neighborhood as if every step were a small resurrection. For 45 years, I'd breathed for Sabrina. Now, for the first time, I was breathing for me. Back in my apartment, I poured a thumb of wine, my first in ages, and dialed a number I'd saved but never dared to call. A travel agency that specialized in helping retirees live abroad. "Good evening," I said when a cheerful voice answered. "This is Elena Vargas. I saw your information about Switzerland. I'd like everything you can send about starting a new life there at 72. "Of course," said Lucas Meyer, efficient and kind. "We'll email housing options, residency guidance, healthcare info, and social groups. We can also book a flexible ticket to Zurich. Book it," I heard myself say. Next Tuesday. When I hung up, the city outside my window looked suddenly small, as if I'd outgrown it overnight. Sabrina wanted me gone. She'd get her wish in the most spectacular way. Wednesday morning, the phone rang. For one foolish second, my heart skipped, thinking maybe Sabrina would call to apologize, to say she hadn't meant it, to call me Mom like she used to. How naive. "Mom," she said, voice brisk and cold. "I need a favor. Not a hello. Not a question about my health. Just a demand. What is it?" I asked, my tone flat. "The twins have a school presentation Friday. Marcus and I have an important dinner. Watch them for us." The irony stung. Days ago, she had told me her greatest birthday wish was my death. Now she needed me to babysit. "I can't," I replied simply. "You can't?" Genuine surprise colored her voice. She wasn't used to hearing no. "I have plans," I lied, smiling faintly at the silence that followed. "What plans could you possibly have?" she sneered. "You're 72. "Plans that are none of your business," I said calmly. "Find another sitter." "But Mom, I can't book someone this late. Since when do you charge me for watching your own grandchildren?" There it was, the manipulation that had kept me tethered for years. But I was done. "Since you told me the best gift I could give you was to die," I said, my voice steel. "If you want me gone, I'll start now." A long silence stretched. Then she laughed sarcastically. "Seriously? You're punishing me like a child? I thought you'd get over the drama by now." "It's not drama, Sabrina. It's respect. You wanted me to disappear. So I am. Fine," she snapped. "Be childish. Don't come crying when you're lonely." She hung up. And for the first time, her cruelty didn't break me. It confirmed my decision. That afternoon, I went to the bank. This time not to close accounts, but to arm myself for freedom. I withdrew nearly all my savings, $30,000, packed it in a plain envelope, and locked it in my safe. This was the seed of my new life in Switzerland. Then I called Lucas at the agency. "Book my flight," I said. "To Zurich?" "Yes, Tuesday, one way. The package is $5,000, including temporary housing and orientation." I handed over the payment without a flicker of hesitation. It was the first investment I'd made in years that was truly for me. The next morning, my neighbor knocked. Nadia, 68, lived across the hall. A retired drama teacher, she'd become my quiet companion over the last 5 years. She'd seen me rush off countless times, arms full of groceries for Sabrina. She'd seen me cancel plans to watch the twins. She'd seen me starve myself of joy so my daughter could feast. "Elena," she said, sliding into my kitchen chair, "you look different. What's going on?" I poured coffee, my hands steady for once. Then I told her everything. The birthday, the words, my decision, Switzerland. Her eyes filled with tears, then hardened. "My God, after all you've done for her." "Elena, that's unforgivable. The worst part?" I said quietly. She said it like she was ordering coffee. Casual, normal, like my death would be convenient. "And you're really leaving?" "Yes, next Tuesday. But I need your help." I explained my plan. When I left, Sabrina would think I'd truly disappeared. vanished without trace. Nadia would be my accomplice, the one who found my empty apartment, the one who delivered my letter. Nadia's lips curved into a sly smile. You want her to believe you're gone? At least for a while, I nodded. I want her to feel the weight of what she wished for. Her eyes glimmered. Elna, I taught theater for 30 years. This will be the performance of my life. I'm in. That night I sat at my desk and wrote the hardest letter of my life. Draft after draft, my tears smudged the ink. My dearest Sabrina, I began. You said your greatest wish was for me to disappear. Consider your wish granted. By the time you read this, I will be gone. For 23 pages, I detailed every sacrifice. The $200 antibiotics when she was 3, the $800 prom dress, the $42,000 tuition, the $35,000 wedding, the $150,000 down payment, the $16,000 mortgage relief, the $4,000 braces. Every penny, every sacrifice, every hour of my life spent in her service, but I didn't write with bitterness. I wrote with clarity. I wanted her to understand what love looked like in action and what it cost when repaid with contempt. Your life will be much easier without me, I concluded. But it will also be much more expensive. I hope it's worth it. I sealed the letter with shaking hands, knowing it was more than words. It was a mirror she could not escape. By Friday, I was packing. 2 suitcases carefully chosen. Clothes, essentials, the few treasures I still claimed as my own. My phone buzzed. Sabrina. I ignored it. It rang again. And again. 3 missed calls, then silence. The next day, a knock. I opened the door to Marcus. His face was haggard. Elena, he said softly. Please don't do this. Do what? I asked. Withdraw. Stop helping us. The kids need you. We need you, I almost laughed. When Sabrina wanted me gone, I was a nuisance. Now, suddenly, they needed me. Your wife was very clear, I said. I'm a burden. I'm respecting her wish. She didn't mean it. She was angry. She meant it, I said, closing the door. Give my grandchildren a kiss. Sunday came, my last day in the city that had caged me. I walked to the hospital where I'd worked 4 decades, to the park where Sabrina had once toddled, to the church where I had married her father. Silent farewells to a life lived entirely for others. That night, I lay awake. Not in grief, but in something strange and exhilarating. Anticipation. At 5 a.m., Nadia knocked, carrying coffee and courage. Ready for your great escape? She winked. More than ready. She jingled the spare keys I'd given her. I'll make it convincing. 2 days of unanswered calls, then I'll use these to discover your empty apartment. I'll bring the letter. I'll play my part. Don't forget to act worried, I reminded her. Darling, she said with a grin, I can summon tears on cue. We called a cab. As the driver loaded my bags, I turned one last time toward the apartment I had called home for 15 years. I felt no nostalgia, only freedom. To the airport, the driver asked. To the airport, I confirmed. 2 words that split my life into before and after. The cab ride to the airport felt surreal. 40 minutes of silence broken only by the hum of traffic, yet inside me a storm churned. I thought of the hospital shifts, the mortgage payments, the babysitting nights, all the years of serving, sacrificing, surrendering. And now, I was leaving it all behind with 2 suitcases and a plane ticket. At the terminal, Sabrina's name flashed across my phone again. I let it ring until it dimmed. Then a text arrived. Mom, you're being ridiculous. The kids are asking about you. Call me, I deleted it. Not out of anger, but out of liberation. The 12-hour flight to Zurich passed quietly. No one demanded anything from me. No calls for favors, no emergencies waiting on the other end of a ringtone. Just me, a journal, and a window view of endless sky. For the first time in decades, the silence was intoxicating. When we landed, a young man in a suit held a sign. Elena Vargas. Mrs. Vargas, he greeted warmly. Welcome to Switzerland. My name is Klaus. I'll be your local guide for the first month. He drove me to a small furnished apartment in central Zurich. It was cozy, overlooking a park with a glimpse of the lake. Here are the essentials: Klaus said, handing me a folder. A city map, social clubs for retirees, German classes, and details of tomorrow's meeting with a financial advisor. I thanked him, then stood alone in the apartment. The silence wrapped me like a gift. No phone calls, no cries of "Mom, can you?" Just the sound of my own breathing. That night, I slept deeply. Morning came and I dressed slowly, savoring the fact that I had nowhere to rush. I strolled to a cafe by the lake, ordered a croissant and coffee, and bought fresh flowers on the way back. On impulse, I treated myself to a silk scarf, $100, simply because I liked it. No guilt. No second guessing whether the money should be spent on Sabrina. By mid-afternoon, I checked the time. 8 a.m. back home. Nadia would be getting ready to play her role, finding my apartment empty, delivering the letter. I sat on a bench near the lake. 15 hours later, my phone began to vibrate. Sabrina. Again and again. I let it ring until finally curiosity tugged. I answered. "Mom!" she screamed, her voice breaking. "Where are you?" "Nadia said you disappeared." She gave me a letter. "What's going on?" "Hello, Sabrina," I replied softly, watching the lake shimmer in the afternoon sun. "Did you read it?" "Yes, are you crazy? How could you just abandon us? Where are you?" "I'm exactly where I need to be," I said. "Far away. Just like you wanted," her breath caught. "I didn't want this. I didn't mean it. I was just angry." "You sounded sincere when you told me your greatest wish was for me to die," she stammered. I was frustrated. Marcus lost his job again. The twins are acting out. "Please." "I didn't mean it." "You did," I said evenly. "But words have consequences," her voice cracked. "Please come back. We need you. I need you." I looked at the Swiss mountains, their peaks sharp against the sky. "Do you need me, or do you need my money?" Silence. Long, heavy, guilty silence, finally. "I need you," she whispered. But her voice wavered, unconvincing. "For 45 years I lived for you," I said. "And when I needed love in return, you wished me gone." "That truth cannot be undone," she sobbed. "I'm sorry, Mom. Please forgive me." "Sorry doesn't heal a wound this deep," I answered, my voice breaking but steady. "For the first time in my life, I'm living for me. And it feels wonderful." Before she could reply, I ended the call. That night, I dressed elegantly and went out alone. I ordered salmon with caviar, 80 and a bottle of French wine. Every bite tasted like freedom. For decades, I had denied myself any luxury in the name of motherhood. Now, every sip was a declaration. I am enough. The next morning, my phone blinked. 47 missed calls. 23 messages. "Please, Mom, we're worried. The bank says you closed the account. What about emergencies? The mortgage lawyer says you can reclaim the house. Are you serious?" "This is ridiculous. You're ruining us." Their panic shifted like weather, from guilt to pleading to threats. Not once did Sabrina say, "I love you." I was wrong. "Please forgive me," I replied with a single message. "I'm fine. I'm exactly where I need to be. Don't look for me." Within minutes, her response, "You don't understand. You'll ruin us. The bank says you can take the house." And there it was, the truth. She wasn't crying for me. She was crying for her comfort, her house, her lifestyle. I put the phone down and smiled sadly. "Now you finally understand what it's worth to have me in your life," I whispered. "Too bad you realized it too late." 2 days later, I sat in a quiet Zurich office across from Heinz Meyer, a silver-haired financial advisor with kind eyes. "With your current savings, pension, and the assets you've begun reclaiming," he explained, "you can live comfortably here. Switzerland offers excellent healthcare for retirees, and with careful investment, your money can grow. In 5 years, you could double your assets." Double. The word lodged in me like a revelation. How many times had I poured that same money into Sabrina's endless wants? Dresses, cars, down payments, braces. Now finally I would pour into myself. "For once," I said softly, "it won't go to waste." Heinz smiled knowingly. "You're not the only one, Mrs. Vargas. Many older parents come here after realizing they've been used. You're in good company." That night, I slept with a peace I hadn't known in decades. The days began to take shape. I joined a hiking group of retirees, people in their 60s and 70s hungry for adventure. On a bus ride through the mountains, I sat beside Ingrid, a German woman of 71. "What brought you here?" she asked. "A daughter who told me her birthday wish was for me to die," I replied without flinching. Her eyes widened, then softened. "My children treated me like an ATM. I left 2 years ago. The guilt nearly killed me, until I realized guilt is just the leash they use to keep us chained." Her words sank deep. For decades, I had confused control for care, manipulation for love. But now, sitting on that bus, I felt less alone. When I finally switched my phone back on, the flood hit. 62 missed calls. 47 texts. "Please, Mom, come home. The twins are crying for you. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Stop this drama, you're ruining our lives." Not once did Sabrina apologize for wishing me gone. Not once did she admit the cruelty of her words. Every message revolved around what she had lost, not who she had hurt. I sent one last reply. "I am safe. I am happier than I have been in years. What you feel now are the consequences of your choices." Her answer came instantly. "Please, Mom. I promise I'll never say anything so horrible again." "Just come back," I typed. "Empty promises don't heal broken hearts. Some wounds never close." Then I blocked her number, and Marcus's, and every unknown number that followed. Weeks passed, and my life blossomed. I started German classes, watercolor lessons, a book club for expats. My days filled with laughter and purpose. My savings grew instead of shrinking. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving for someone else. I was thriving for myself. But Sabrina wasn't finished. One morning, a call came from an American number. "Sarah Williams, a social worker." "Mrs. Vargas," she said gently. "We received a complaint. Your daughter alleges you may be suffering from dementia, that you've made dangerous financial decisions and are living in precarious conditions abroad." I froze. Dementia? Sabrina had crossed a line I never imagined. "Miss Williams," I said firmly, "I am of sound mind. I chose to move to Switzerland. I live in a safe apartment with excellent care. My daughter's accusations are false," Sarah sighed. "We'll need verification through the American consulate, a medical and psychological evaluation." "Arrange it," I said. "I'll prove her wrong." At the consulate, an experienced doctor examined me for hours. Memory tests, logic exercises, emotional checks. At the end, he smiled. "Mrs. Vargas, you're not only healthy, you're sharper than most people I see half your age. It's clear your daughter is manipulating the system for personal gain." "I'll file my report immediately." Relief washed over me. Sabrina's attempt to discredit me had failed. Worse for her, it was now documented that she'd filed a false complaint. That night, I called my lawyer, Arthur. "She tried to undo everything," I told him. "She won't succeed," he replied. "I have recordings of your clarity when we changed your will. The consulate report seals it. If she persists, we'll sue for defamation." "Do it," I said. "She needs to face consequences." Sitting by the lake that evening, I thought about how far she had gone. First wishing me gone, now trying to strip me of my sanity on paper. And yet, instead of breaking me, it had made me stronger. For the first time in years, I toasted myself with a glass of champagne. Not as a mother, not as a nurse, not as a bank account in human form, but as a woman who had finally reclaimed her dignity. After the consulate cleared my name, I sat down one evening and wrote the longest letter of my life, not to Sabrina, but to the world. I called it, "When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Liberation at 72. Page after page, I poured out the truth, every sacrifice, every manipulation, every cruel word that broke me, and every decision that finally saved me. It wasn't a bitter confession. It was a guide, a warning, a spark of hope for mothers still trapped in the same cycle. I sent it to a women's blog I'd found, one that shared the stories of older women reclaiming their lives. A week later, the editor replied, Elena, your story is powerful. We've received hundreds of comments already. Would you be willing to share it in a video interview for our channel? I agreed. And when that interview went live, everything changed. Within days, thousands of women left comments. My daughter only calls when she needs money for vacations. My 40-year-old son yells at me for asking him to get a job. I thought I was the only one being used by my own children. I read every comment with tears in my eyes. My pain had become their mirror, and my courage gave them permission to imagine escape. Then came the email I never expected. From Marcus Elena, he wrote, I saw your interview. You're right. Sabrina has treated you terribly. I never defended you because we relied so much on your help. That was cowardly, but I want you to know. I see now what you sacrificed. The children miss you. They don't understand why you're gone. Sabrina told them you're sick, but one day they deserve the truth. I don't know if this apology means anything, but at least one person in our family acknowledges your pain. I read his words 3 times before replying. Marcus, I appreciate your honesty, but apologies after years of silence don't erase the damage. Use this lesson to be a better father, so your children grow up knowing the value of love and respect. It was the first acknowledgement I had ever received from anyone in that family. It didn't heal me, but it validated me. Meanwhile, my life in Switzerland blossomed. My German improved. My painting classes filled my apartment with colors. My book club gave me real friends who valued me for who I was, not for what I could give. And financially, for the first time, I wasn't bleeding. I was building. The investments Heinz helped me make were already growing. My savings were safe. My life was mine. Heinz helped me make were already growing. My savings were safe. My life was mine. Then, 6 months after I left, Nadia called me from home. Elena, she said breathlessly, you won't believe this. Sabrina lost the house. The bank foreclosed last week. I felt my chest tighten. And the children? They're fine. Marcus got a job in a factory. Sabrina's working again. They moved into a small apartment across town. But she came to me yesterday begging me to tell you to come back. She says she finally understands what she lost. And what did you say? I asked. I told her some wounds are too deep, that you're flourishing now and she should let you go. A long silence stretched between us. Then I whispered, thank you. I didn't rejoice in their hardship. But for the first time, they were forced to face the world without me as a safety net. That same week, my lawyer Arthur called. Elena, I have news. Because you were a co-signer, the bank has returned your original $150,000 down payment, plus interest. You'll receive $185,000. I nearly dropped the phone. And, he added, your old apartment has sold. After expenses, that's another $95,000. In total, nearly $300,000 is on its way to your Swiss account. At 72, after years of poverty by choice, I was wealthier than I had ever been. That night, I went to my favorite lakeside restaurant and ordered champagne. Alone, I toasted the woman who had been brave enough to walk away. Then came the idea that had been circling my mind for months. A book. Not just my story, but a guide for mothers who lived as I once had, enslaved by love that was really manipulation. For 3 months, I wrote When Love Hurts, Freeing Yourself from Family Abuse After 70. It was published 8 months later and, to my astonishment, became a bestseller across Europe. Letters flooded in. I stopped financing my adult son's irresponsibility because of your story. Your book helped me move out of my daughter's house and reclaim my freedom. For the first time in years, I sleep peacefully. Each message was a balm to my soul. My pain had not been wasted. It had been transformed into light for others. And then, the letter that broke me open again. It was from the twins, now 12. Dear Grandma, they wrote in shaky handwriting. Dad told us the truth. We know Mom said terrible things. We miss you. We're proud of you for being so brave. When we're older, can we visit you in Switzerland? We love you. They had even drawn pictures of me, smiling in the Swiss mountains. I wept, not from sadness, but from the quiet confirmation that I had chosen correctly. I wrote back, "My dearest grandchildren, the doors of my heart and my home will always be open for you. Learn from this. Words can heal or destroy. Relationships must be built on respect. I love you forever." Now, 3 years later, I sit on my balcony in Zurich, mountains blazing pink in the dawn. I am 75 years old. My savings have passed $600,000. My book has reached thousands. I have friends across the world. And most importantly, I have peace. Sabrina once told me the best gift I could give her was to disappear. I granted her that wish, but in doing so, I gave myself the greatest gift of all: rebirth. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to have the courage to lose everything and finally become who you were always meant to be.